Hey everybody, Reach here. Anti-Titan weapons. They exist. Although some pilots may lead you to believe otherwise. I feel like people don't really talk about the anti-Titan weapons enough. I guess that makes sense, right? Because there's only really 4 of them. So, it is what it is. But I'm here to talk about that today. And as you can already tell, this format is probably a little different than what you're used to. Usually this type of video where, I lay out my expressions and thoughts about certain things would normally be like a long form type of video, but, I thought it'd be more cool to discuss some stuff like this just in a more down to earth and, just a more personal, just more like of a personal rant, right? Between me and you. And so I'm actually sitting here in front of my microphone, just talking. I'm just gonna be yapping. I don't have a script in front of me. I don't have anything. I'm literally just sitting here in my room, all alone. As sad as that sounds. But yeah, we are gonna be talking about the anti-Titan weapons today, and I'm gonna give my thoughts on what I think of them, and I'm probably going to be doing more videos like this in the future, and I actually had to think a lot about what I wanted to discuss today, because honestly, there's so many things I could discuss, like, grenades, tacticals, and all that, right, without resorting to a long-form video, or I guess, basically my long-form videos are like, the basically videos, right? Sometimes it's good to just sit down and, talk. But yeah, let's get moving. The first anti-Titan weapon, we're gonna be going down the list here. The charge rifle. Now, I'm gonna straight up say this: I don't really like it. As for why, well, let me talk about why. Let me talk about what I like about the charge rifle first, I guess, before I start bashing on it. The concept of a charge up sniper rifle that can take down behemoths, these huge chunks of metals, titans, right? That's cool. And among the other anti-Titan weapons, it's the only one that's able to land critical hits. And that alone is a pretty unique and worthy gimmick because, unlike every other anti-Titan weapon, this rewards you heavily with precision. And, you can still do a respectable amount of damage even if you miss. Because, it's a charge-up weapon, it's still going to do a nice little chunk of damage. Yeah, it's the anti-Titan poke tool. But let me tell you why I don't exactly like this. It's slow. Everything in this game is fast, and sitting there waiting for, your weapon to fire is kind of bad. In a game where everybody's so fast, you can die in the next second or two from some stim crackhead flying by with an evade and, just taking you out while you're waiting 10 years to do, like, a sliver of health to that runaway Ronin. And, in that charge up time of, like 1-2 seconds, a lot of things can happen. That tone you were targeting, could have just put up their shield in the moment they saw you charging, or, an Ion could have taken that chance to see you, and, one tap of the laser shot and boom, you're dead. And, there's so many factors you have to consider when you charge your rifle, and so much can go past in that short amount of time. And like I said, that's the biggest weakness of this weapon, right? You have to stand still. And if you're not standing still, you're moving very, very slowly in a very predictable way. And, that's not good. That is not good. Because, the number one rule in this game is, you stay still, you are dead. No big surprise, right? Like the funny meme, right? But yeah, like it's just not worth it. Now, I will say though, that doesn't mean this thing is automatically bad. It's by far not the worst option you have at your disposal, because on maps like Homestead, where where basically you have free reign, right? Like you can sit in the back, or on top of the tower, right in the middle, on top of the silo or whatever, and you're guaranteed to at least maybe hit 2 or 3 shots with nobody being the wiser, right? But once you shoot those first couple of shots, like you gotta move, because you fire off that huge tracer, and that Titan, whoever they are, they're gonna know where you are, and chances are they're probably gonna start barreling towards you. Of course, the charge rifle though does reign supreme against Titans like Ronin or Scorch, who can't really do anything at long range to counteract you, besides running away or using one of their abilities. Like Ronin, he can use sword block, he can phase, and Scorch can use his thermal shield and reposition. Or I guess he could go for the Hail Mary, but what kind of Scorch is able to hit those shots? Am I right? But oh, and before I guess I kind of went on a little tangent there. Another cool thing that this thing does actually is it's probably, or no, it is, let me rephrase that, it is the only anti-Titan weapon that can reliably kill pilots. You can, on a full charge up shot, you can actually one-shot any pilot. Doesn't matter where they are. The charge rifle is actually, if you really think about it, it's really just an over-glorified sniper rifle. And honestly, it's balanced in that regard. Because you got the long ass wind-up time, man. I'm gonna keep circling back to this. The long wind-up time is what truly makes me just not like this weapon. But I get it though. I get it why it has a long charge-up time, because one, you can reliably, if your opponent is super far away, you can pretty reliably and safely just shoot for like a good 3-4 shots, right? Without having to move, really. And the fact that this weapon can crit really rewards that accuracy, and you can input some serious damage over time with the constant poking. And even if you're not gonna doom that Titan, or God forbid even kill it, I know that I get super pissed whenever I take the slightest amount of damage from a goofy pilot. So I mean, like, you can use that to your advantage, I guess. You can make the enemy mad. And now, if that was all there was to the charge rifle, then sure, cool. It's a cool weapon that I personally don't like, and we're gonna move on. But no, actually, because unlike the other anti-Titan weapons, this is one of the few weapons in the. In fact, I don't know if is this the only weapon in the game that has a unique attachment? I actually don't know, and I'm not gonna bother to check because I'm lazy. But the charge rifle actually has a really, really cool feature, or I guess attachment. It is a charge hack. Now, what charge hack does is it basically halves the charge up time, but of course you actually do less damage as a result, and so you actually can't one-shot pilots anymore, which really sucks. But I mean, like, well, you're not gonna be maining the charge rifle for pilots anyway. It's an anti-Titan weapon. But charge hack though completely changes how often you use this weapon. Basically, you basically turn the charge up bolt action sniper rifle. Yeah, so think of the charge rifle as a bolt action sniper rifle. You basically change it into a semi-automatic DMR. So basically, think that you change the Kraber into a DMR. You can spam this thing quite reliably, and while you may not be doing as much damage as a single charge rifle shot without the attachment, it more than makes up for it with how fast it actually fires. And there's a video online. I think it's from Dinosaur, a couple years back, they did a test, and in a straight DPS showdown, the charge rifle hack would always come out on top, because it really does just do more damage at the cost of less damage per shot. But over time, it does more damage, if that makes any sense, right? And in a game where you're constantly on the move, having an attachment that reliably halves the time you're standing still while using the goddamn thing is so good. And with the potential output to do even more damage normally. Because over time, you're doing more damage. And God, I sound like a broken record, but ugh, it's whatever. Anyways. And even then, you can actually mitigate this downside of doing less damage per shot by simply hitting crits, or hell, just bite the bullet and pick up amped weapons as your boost, or AWOL, and you actually just have a really fast charge rifle on demand. Like you have a high damage, really fast charging charge rifle on demand. It's actually, I think people actually kind of underrate it. In fact, I think people actually underrate AWOL, but that's a whole different pack of things to unravel. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say here is use charge hack. Charge hack is super good. In fact, I think it's the best way to play a charge rifle for any playstyle, really. But yeah, that's that is my opinion on charge rifle. If I had to rank it though, between out of the 4 weapons here, I would actually probably rate it number 2. It's pretty good. It's not bad, and compared to what we have, it's one of the better options. Okay, moving on. The MGL mag launcher. This is the complete opposite of the charge rifle in basically every shape and form. It's projectile. It has very limited range. In fact, it has the lowest range by far out of the entire weapon pool, and it also has the shortest amount of uptime when you really think about it, because this thing comes with base mag. It comes with 6 grenades, and you shoot 2 at a time. And I'm gonna be honest, damage is not that great for 1 mag. It's actually really, really bad because this thing sort of suffers. This thing sort of has the same problems as a charge rifle, where this is more of basically the MGL and the charge rifle are more of sustain weapons, if that makes sense. Like they rely on continuous damage output. Well, more so the MGL. The charge rifle you can fire and forget. But with the MGL though, you basically are encouraged to get close to Titans and to blast them to hell with this thing. Except that's literally the opposite of where you should be whenever you're dealing with a Titan as a pilot, because you're facing up against a Titan, the giant steel behemoth that can crush you in 3 seconds. Not even, actually. So being up close to one of those things and being encouraged to go close up to one of those things is probably the worst design concept for a weapon. And this would probably be a better anti-Titan weapon if it actually did good damage, which I'm gonna be honest, at least from what I've played, it just doesn't hit as well, I feel like, as it should. And I guess this makes sense because it's a grenade launcher. But the main reason why people advocate for the MGL, right, is that you can shoot this around corners, and you can reliably shoot this actually out of sight. You go to a doorway, you go through like a window, and you just aim in the general direction of that window without peeking, and it's free damage. But realistically, how often is that gonna happen? A lot of people don't even like going indoors because obviously it restricts your movement. And the few times you do go indoors, usually a lot of people are just in there to get from point A to point B instead of actually staying inside where, you're an easy target and there's no space to move with, the giant movement system. But yeah, I mean, when those scenarios do come up where, you can reliably pound on a Titan without them being able to, counteract you, like, how often does that really happen? Like, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't happen enough for me to choose the MGL over something like the Thunderbolt, which we'll talk about later, obviously. I feel like out of all these options in this list, the MGL just does everything worse. Now, would I change this? How would I buff the MGL? I don't know. I don't know what I would do actually. I would maybe consider upping the mag size, and maybe that's about it. Because I heard at one point, the MGL actually used to be pretty good because it had a lot more range, but it had too much range that eventually Respawn had to nerf it. And honestly, I understand because I feel like this thing was definitely a beast back in its prime. But regardless, in the state it's in now, I feel like the other options you have are just better. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the MGL. If I had to say personally, it's my least favorite, and I feel like it's also definitely the least effective anti-Titan weapon. Now, next up on our anti-Titan weapon list, the LG97 Thunderbolt. Fan favorite. It's not hard to see why. It perfectly captures what I feel an anti-Titan weapon should be. It's hard hitting, and you don't have to necessarily overextend yourself to use it every time to do meaningful damage. Basically, you shoot this thing, ball goes forward, it arcs, hits everything in its path, and if you get a direct hit, that's extra damage. Boom. Pretty good. The only downside, of course, is that the bolt fires reasonably slow. Fun fact though, if you do move fast while you're using this weapon, the bolt actually does become faster. So it actually scales depending on your speed. So if you're running stim, you stim and you use this, and then boom, the bolt becomes instantly just super duper fast. Unlike the other anti-Titan weapons, this weapon also has the unique quirk to hit multiple things on its path. So you fire this into a group of Titans, you better believe that you're hitting all of them, even if you are doing only minor amounts of damage. I mean, in Titan combat, every little sliver of health counts. So I feel like this is the alongside the charge rifle, this is a great poking tool because you can also just the nature of this weapon allows you to just fire and forget, which is why I feel like this thing reforms the role of the MGL, but just better because you can also shoot this thing around corners without an enemy Titan being able to retaliate against you, since you're out of sight, and I feel like it just does the exact same job. Even with the less direct impact damage as a result, but I mean, still, I feel it's just a lot more reliable in that sense. And there's not much else to say. It's a fire and forget anti-Titan weapon. You can build up your Titan meter pretty fast if all the enemy Titans are grouped together, and it does great damage. Has decent mag size. I think with extended mags it's like 9 or 10, somewhere around that ballpark, and it's good old reliable. You don't really need any special skills to use it in a game in Titanfall. If you're speeding by something and you don't have the luxury of aiming, well, you don't have to worry about that with the Thunderbolt because you can just fire that shit on the go. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Thunderbolt. It's personally my favorite. you know, you whoop-de-doo, and it's, I think, probably the best anti-Titan weapon the game has. Now we are on to the final weapon, the Archer. The Archer is good, with a catch. It's good against bad players. And what I mean by that is it's very counterable. But let's talk about its good sides. It does the highest amount of damage, and as long as you get a lock on your target, you are pretty much guaranteed to hit whatever you're aiming at. But I say pretty much, yeah, no. That's the one flaw of this weapon. It's kind of slow, and it's not Thunderbolt slow, but because the weapon is a lock-on and a projectile, it's very much more reactable. It's probably the most reactable anti-Titan weapon on the list, and for good reason, of course, because like I said earlier, it does the most damage. Like you do a fuck ton of damage with this thing. But you know, here are the cons, right? Like the charge rifle, it is a charge-up weapon, and unlike the charge rifle, you don't have the luxury of stealth, because whenever you start locking onto somebody, there's a little sneaky warning at the bottom of the Titan HUD that tells you that somebody is locking onto you with an Archer. And you can also deduct where, I think you can deduct where it's coming from. I think it only happens once the weapon is actually fired, where you can actually determine where the Archer rocket is coming from. But most of the time, if you're out in the open and you see the pop-up appear, it's pretty obvious to deduce, depending on where you are, like where the Titan or where the pilot is going to shoot you from. But yeah, alongside the lock-on, the Archer is also a projectile weapon, meaning that basically this weapon has a lot of counters. You got Ion's Vortex Shield, Legion's Gun Shield, Scorch's Thermal Shield, Tone's Particle Wall, and Ronin has Sword Block, and he also has Phase Shift. And in some cases, I know there are people out there who can reliably dodge Archer rockets just due to how they actually behave, how the rockets behave in game with like trajectory and all that. And I know I'm not tripping, because I've actually seen North Stars just completely evade every Archer rocket I've thrown at him, and honestly, it's impressive. So, but yeah, that's the problem with this weapon. It's just too counterable. But you know, that's not a bad thing, right? Because this weapon heavily punishes mistakes, which is a good thing. You know, if you're not looking, you know, you can justify, like, if you're not constantly on your toes and you get hit by an Archer rocket, I feel like that's entirely justified, because you can pretty reliably react to whatever is going on, unless you're out in the open. And I feel like the Archer rocket being counterable is fine. I mean, like, you know, it's a hard hitting weapon, and it punishes you for making bad decisions. Like if you're out in the open, if you're not paying attention, or you're just, you know, in a bad position. If you're not paying attention, and you just ignore, you know, whatever warnings this thing is giving you, you get hit for a lot of damage in return. And, you know, trade-off for that is, if you're actually paying attention, this weapon becomes a joke to you. But against bad players, though, and I guess Monarchs too, I don't think Monarchs really have a way to counteract this. Against people like that, this is pretty much a death sentence, because boy, this thing does a lot of damage, especially if you amp it up. This thing can take out entire bars of health. It is absolutely insane. If you get the ball rolling with this thing on a bad group of players who don't know what they're doing. But yeah, basically what kills this weapon for me is the lock-on, and the fact that, you know, the player base is just naturally better than what it used to be years ago. In fact, yeah, that's another thing I want to point out. This weapon will undoubtedly get worse over time due to just how the average, you know, skill level of the player base is, because, you know, you spend a few years playing this game, you're gonna know the ins and out of every weapon and how to, you know, avoid them or counteract them or, you know, all that other wacky shit. And so I'm gonna rank the archer here at 3rd. In my opinion, I do find a lot more use with this thing than the MGL, because you can actually still fire this thing relatively close to your enemies. So sometimes if you're close enough, your enemy won't have time to react, or at least a very, very small window to react. So I'll take that. I'll take a chance with the archer any day over trying to risk my luck with the MGL and getting close. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I certainly did. I'm gonna have to edit a lot of this out because I've actually been yapping here for over half an hour, and I definitely messed up a lot while talking. But I'm gonna edit all that out, and you guys will never ever know. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Make sure you guys join the Discord in the description below. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube jibja, whatever, all that YouTube shenanigans. We also have networks on all platforms, including Xbox. The Xbox one is run by a clan member, so don't worry about that. But they all should be under the name Reach's Comrades. If you want to support me directly, there's also memberships. You can pay for memberships, get early access to my long-form videos, get a special thank you at the end. And yeah, that'll be it for me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Thursday, or whatever day you're watching this on, and you'll probably see more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.